Hey guys, and welcome back to the Python track. So we are on Python lesson 11, and today we are going to be talking about dictionaries. Now, before we get into this lesson, like always, let's just do a recap on the previous one. So in the previous lesson, we talked about exceptions, and I told you about different kind of errors and how we could debug our code. Uh, that was a very important lesson. Remember, exceptions are very important because it helps us debug our code, right? So if we run into a problem with the code, the exception tells us where that code is going, where Python is throwing that code off, and why the code is not working. So it's always important to know the different types of exception errors, right? So in this case, in this lesson, we're going to be talking about dictionaries. Now, we talked about dictionaries way back in lesson 3, and that was just like a brief introduction when we were talking about data types, right? So dictionaries are very important in Python. It's a key, it's like another data type that has like collections, right? So if you think about a collection is like a group of items, right? So we might have counted one data type that had a collection known as a list, right? List contain different items, right? Like if you went to a grocery list, it contains different grocery items like apples, bananas, pears, fruits, whatever, etc. Dictionaries are another type of collection data types in Python. So without further ado, let's just jump into lesson 11. And just as a reminder, there's going to be one exception that's going to we talked about in lesson 10, and that's going to be key error, which is going to be in the dictionaries lesson. So I'll talk more about that once we go into it. So without further ado, let's just jump into lesson 11, which is on dictionaries. So before we go into what a dictionary is, let's talk about a collection, right? So a collection is a great way to put more than one value in them and carry them in one package, right? It's just like a package of items, right? And as I mentioned just moments ago, there are two types of data types that are considered collections in Python, and that is a list, which we already talked about, and the lesson we're talking about, the one we're going to be talking about today, dictionaries. They're another collection in Python. List and dictionaries look similar to each other, but they are both completely different in how we access their elements and values. So the way we access a list, right? When we index a list, we talk about like which part of the list we want to pick up, right? So remember, indexing in Python is zero-based indexing, right? So the index always starts with 0. So in this case, this list apple, banana, carrot. Well, apple is known as the 0th index. This is the first index and the second index. So if we want to access one of the values inside that list, we just say list, right? The name of the list, and we put in square brackets and we try to access one. So let's say we want to access the second element, right? The banana. So we say list of 1 because banana is the first element in the list based on zero-based indexing. So if we say list of 0, 1, and we want to print that, it will print back banana. It will give us back the value banana. Dictionaries work a little differently when we want to try to access their values. So we'll talk about that right now. So Python dictionaries, right? A dictionary is a mutable type, just like lists, they're mutable, right? You could change them, you could modify them, right? Mutable types you could always modify them. You could remove something, you could add something. It's a mutable type. So a dictionary is a mutable type, and it's another container type that can store any number of Python objects. So it can store any value, any Python value inside that dictionary. And dictionaries consist of pairs, right? Called items of keys and their corresponding values, right? So if you open up a dictionary, right? Let's say you open up just a basic dictionary for an English class. You always know that each in the dictionary there's always vocabulary words, right? And each word, there's a word highlighted in black followed by a colon, right? That highlighted word in black is known as the key in programming, right? And when we see the definition of that word, that is known as the value of that key, right? So that's the same way we could think of a Python dictionary in Python, right? So Python dictionaries are also known as associative arrays and or hash tables. And the syntax is basically right here, right? Dic, right? Is known as, is the name of the dictionary. So we named the dictionary Dic, D-I-C-T. It's assigned to, and then we assign, and then each of these are values, right? So here's the key, right? The key value pair, and they each separated by commas, right? So here's the key A, and its values 2, 3, 4, the string 2, 3, 4, 1. The key B and its string of 9102. So each key has different values, right? So A is assigned to this value, the string B is assigned to this string, and the string C is assigned to this. And key value pairs are always separated by a colon, right? So this one to the left of the colon is the key. Anything to the right of the colon, it's its corresponding value. So that's how a dictionary is organized. And here's some of the features, right? So each key is separated from its value by a colon, right? Anything left to this colon, anything left to the colon right here, the double colon, is known as the key. Anything right to the right of the colon is known as the value of that key. And the ions are separated by a comma, and the whole thing is enclosed by curly brackets, just like Lister, curly braces, but just like how Lister closed by square brackets, dictionaries are closed by curly braces, right? So that's the difference between a dictionary and a list. They both are enclosed. So if you enclose something with square brackets, it's a list. If you enclose something with the curly braces, it's a dictionary. And an empty dictionary, just like an empty list, when we want to create an empty list, we just put 2 square brackets with nothing in it. Same thing with a dictionary. If you want to create an empty dictionary, you just create 2 curly brackets with nothing in it. And here's the most important bullet point right here. Keys are unique within a dictionary, while values may not be unique. So you can always have the same value, but the key in a dictionary has to be unique. That means you cannot have duplicate keys within the same dictionary. So if I look back at this dictionary, here's a key A, key B, and key C. They're all unique. There's no duplicates. I cannot have 2 key A's in here. That will break the rule of each key being unique in the dictionary. Every key in the dictionary must be unique. That is the most important part of the dictionary. Every key in a dictionary must be unique. The value could have duplicates, but the keys cannot be duplicated. And another thing is the values of a dictionary. The values of a dictionary can be anything. So anything right to the colon is known as the value. So anything right to the colon could have any data type, right? It could be an immutable type, like strings or tuples, or mutable types like lists, right? But the key must be an immutable type. So it can only be strings, numbers, or tuples. It cannot be lists. Keys can never be lists. And I think I talked about that in lesson 3 when we talked about data types. So again, this is like refreshing your memory. Keys in a dictionary cannot be a list. You can never use a list as a key in a dictionary. Keys must be immutable. So when we, like I explained in the first slide, we tried to access the value of a list, right? We just used the list and its index, and we got that value back. To access a value in a dictionary, it's a little different. So when we want to access dictionary elements, you can't use the familiar square brackets along with the key to obtain its value. And here's an example. I have a dictionary and I have its key name and its value spike, right? The key age and its value 5, and the key class and its value first. So let's say I want to print out the name, right? So the way I print out the name is say the write the dictionary's name, right? So this case, I named the dictionary Dict, D-I-C-T. So I say that, and then I could do the 2 square brackets, and I want to obtain the name, right? I want to obtain the name Spike. So I type in the key name, and then when I print that out, the key name is assigned to the value Spike. So Python will return back Spike because the key of name is Spike. That's how I get its values. That's how I can access the values in a dictionary. Another important thing is if a key, and this is back to the thing I was talking about at the beginning, this is something that we cover in lesson 10 in exceptions, right? If a key does not exist in a dictionary and you try to access that non-existing key, Python will throw back a key error, right? No, a key error exception, right? A key error exception, which is known as a key does not exist in a dictionary. So if I try to, let's say in this dictionary, I tried to access a key named, let's say, try to access a key name address. When I print that out, Python, there is no key name address in this dictionary. So what Python's going to do is, hey, I don't see a key name address in this dictionary. I'm going to throw back an exception known as key error. And that's how, and then when you see that, and when you try to go back into the code and saying, why is Python throwing back a key error? Well, we look back and say, oh, I don't have the word access, the address. I don't have the key address in my dictionary. And that's why Python's throwing back a key error. And that's how we debug the code, right? We found out that we forgot to write the key address. So we must add that and then print it again. And then Python will throw back the address, the value of address once we write it into a dictionary. So that's how we use exceptions to debug. And that's why exceptions are important to know what they are and how to diagnose each exception you get. In this case, we got a key error, so I knew there was something wrong with the key, right? That we have a non-existent key we're trying to access, and we have to add that key back in order for Python to throw back its value. Updating a dictionary, right? So 2 ways you could update a dictionary in Python. You could update a dictionary by adding a new entry or an item. So you can add a new key value pair into that dictionary. So like I said, I could add address into this and then and write the address name. And that's how I could modify it by adding a new key value pair. Or I could modify an existing entry or delete an existing entry. Remember, dictionaries are mutable types, so you could always modify them. You could always change them. You could always remove something out of it. They're mutable, just like lists where you could add and remove stuff. You could do the same thing with dictionaries. Excuse me. Okay. To delete dictionary elements, right? So you can either remove individual dictionary elements or clear the entire context of that dictionary. To explicitly remove an entire dictionary, you use the delete statement, right, in front of the dictionary. So you use the delete statement in front of the key that you're trying to delete out of that dictionary. So in this case, I have the same dictionary I showed you before. Name, the key name assigned to the value Spike, the key age assigned to the string 5, and the key class assigned to the string value first. And let's say I want to delete the name. Let's say I want to delete the key name out of it. So I say delete, put the delete statement in front of the delete the dictionary's name and the key I want to delete. In this case, I want to delete the key name. So I write the key name, and this will remove the entire name. So in this case, when you return that dictionary back, it no longer will have this. It will only have the age and the class. This whole thing, name and its value, Spike, will be deleted out of the dictionary when we return the new dictionary. And if you want to delete this entire dictionary, you just simply say put delete and the name of the dictionary you want to delete, and this will delete its entire context. And finally, the last slide, properties of dictionary keys. This is just a refresher slide from the rest of the thing. but it's very important for you to know this. This is why I want you guys to know this. There are two important points to remember about dictionary keys, right? A, more than one entry per dictionary key is not allowed, which means no duplicate keys, right? All keys in a dictionary are unique. And when duplicate keys are counted during the assignment, right? When you see two duplicate keys, the last assignment wins, right? So in this case right here, I have an example. Dictionary, the name, the key called name, and the value spike, the key age and the value 5, and the key name and the value 10. Notice I have two duplicate keys. You should never have two duplicate keys like this. That's because in Python, dictionary keys are unique. But in case you do have two duplicate keys, the last assignment wins. So in this case, this is the last assignment in the dictionary, right? So this is going to be, when you try to print out the name, it will print out Tim. It will not print out Spike. It will print out Tim, just because that is the last assignment in that dictionary. So when you print it out, it will print out Tim. But remember, to make your life easier, whenever you write a dictionary and whenever you code in Python, using a dictionary, remember all dictionary keys are unique. You should never have duplicate keys in a dictionary. You can have duplicate values, but you cannot have duplicate keys. And again, keys must be immutable data types. So strings, tuples, integers, right? You can use any of those as keys, as your key in a dictionary. When you create a dictionary, you can use any of those as your key. You cannot use a list as a key because the lists are mutable types, and it explicitly says keys always must be immutable types, meaning lists are not allowed as keys. You could only use strings, numbers, and tuples as keys. You could use a list as values, but you cannot use them as keys. So that will wrap up today's lesson in Python on dictionaries. It was a much more quicker lesson, but I think this was not that difficult to understand. I think you kind of understood this from previous lesson 3, when we talked about this stuff on dictionaries. We didn't go too much into that because I was just talking about general knowledge. This went more into detail about dictionaries. But again, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, please just email us at gencode.us@gmail.com, and we will answer your questions as soon as possible. This will also be uploaded onto GenCode, as well as the YouTube channel GenCode. So without further ado, I'm going to sign off, and I'll see you in our final lesson. I think next lesson is our final lesson for this Python track. So hope to all see you in the next lesson, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye.